The views expressed, opinions given, and any communication made between the hosts and guests of What Are You Afraid of Horror and Paranormal Show do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Para X Radio, EMC Network, or all services that play this show. The hosts and services are not responsible for the actions of their guests, and the original rights of all intellectual property is retained by the creator, and all work is used with either permission or Creative Commons license. The show is for entertainment purposes only. I'm horror author T. Fox Dunham.
And I'm horror author and filmmaker Phil Thomas.
And tonight we're asking you,
what are you afraid of? Philadelphia's horror home with hosts T. Fox Dunham and Phil Thomas.
This is T. Fox Dunham.
And this is Phil Thomas.
We're back with episode 136, Hell House of Washington State. How are you, Phil?
Oh, I'm great. How are you, Fox?
I'm hanging in, enjoying life in Lancaster. We had a lovely day yesterday. Finally got my hair cut. It feels great.
I know, I saw that. It looks wonderful.
It's ever since we went to New Orleans, that was the last time I got a cut. It was like 7 months ago. It just feels so much lighter. And it's getting cold here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, your hair was getting long there for a while, yeah.
Yeah, it was driving me crazy.
We've been having nice weather, but like you just said, it has been getting colder. Like the last few days have been pretty frigid.
Pretty frigid here in Pennsylvania. But It's the best time for ghost stories, and we've got some great episodes that have come out so far in 2020. We had that wonderful story where I found out I'm living on top of an Indian burial ground after the Conestoga Massacre in Lancaster, living right on top of the burial ground. Had no idea.
Well, guess what? You do now.
I do now.
So, yeah.
I'm not sure what to do about it. Do I leave it on? Yeah.
I mean, well, the thing is, what can you do though?
Right.
I have you done any kind of like cleansing or anything like that?
Not yet. I don't want to click that first domino over. What I think I might do is leave an offering and a memorial to the spirits that will still dwell on the land.
Okay.
In respect.
Right. Absolutely.
Show that I'm that kind of fellow.
You're a good guy.
I'm a good guy. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is episode 136, Hell House of Washington State. And we've got a gentleman on this show that has had quite a phenomenal, extraordinary, and terrifying experience. I first found his books. It was Halloween. At Halloween, I like to go through the various recent possession books, haunting books, horror books, true horror books that have come out, and I sort of binge them all through October. And as I'm reading them, I look for various guests. And it's funny because I had just found his book, and I was reading it, and he sent us a message to the show over Twitter.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I hadn't connected the two, and then he said the Bothell Hell House, the Washington State poltergeist, and I realized that I was reading his book.
See, that's a coincidence. It was meant to be. That's too much of a coincidence.
I think so. I really do think so. And so it's a phenomenal book, and it's terrifying and fascinating, and done from an interesting point of view. A rather, usually these hauntings happen to families that have no sort of intellectual grasp of it. They often turn to their faith and explain it with religious terms, which is fine. I mean, that's how we've been doing it for millennia now. But this gentleman began interpreting it from a sort of logical point of view, trying to explain the phenomenon observing the phenomenon, measuring the phenomenon, and trying to get a sort of scientific grasp of what's going on. In fact, in the book, he often quotes great physicists like Stephen Hawking.
Right. Yeah.
Trying to explain the science behind it. And that's what intrigued me most. The other thing was that a lot of things that happened didn't quite make a lot of, like, in certain demonic books or something, you hear a demon growling and speaking a dark name and telling you to kill people. But when he talked about the phenomenon, it was strange, odd, sort of obtuse things happening, like the sound of a child coughing or a light bulb exploding.
Right.
And this intrigued me because it sounded quite sincere.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I love the scientific aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's doing something that most people wouldn't do.
Right from the start. Yeah.
Yeah, right from the start. Trying to measure this phenomenon and work out a scientific explanation.
And explain it from the point of view of physics or quantum physics, which is interesting.
Very.
Now, it's had some controversy around it. He had gotten involved with, television paranormal shows, and of course, a lot of the shows on television have their own agenda, and that's ratings.
Right.
So you have to be careful with that.
Right.
But he's on the show with us on episode 136, Hell House of Washington State. We're on Parax Radio Friday nights at 9 p.m. And find us at our website at www.whatareyoufraidofpodcast.com, where you can find all of our previous 135 episodes, a lot of our audio ghost stories with narration, plus fiction, and a lot of interviews, especially interviews coming out from our Crash Code authors from Bloodbound Books, which I'm going to start putting up in the next few days. But Mr. Keith Linder is here with us on the show. Hello, Keith. How are you?
Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for having me. Good to be here. I was listening to you guys in the intro, and thanks for having me. How's it going?
No, you're welcome. Good. Glad to have you here.
It's going pretty well. I'm glad it finally came together. As you probably recently heard, I moved away from Phil. We used to do the show together, so we're just getting the technology and the software together now to sort of do these things remotely, and it's all worked out pretty well so far.
Oh, there you go. I'm an IT specialist, so I can talk about remote technology, telecommunications. Oh, yeah, you're gonna fall in love with it. It's gotten better over the years.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier than it was a few years ago. So
it's really well.
You've had quite a horrific story that, reading your books, and you've been in many, many magazines. You've had documentaries done. You've had a lot of various paranormal investigators come by and investigate the phenomenon. So when it all started, you were just a guy looking for a better life. You decide to go out west. You decide to go out to the coast to Washington State. You found a good job. You met a great lady. You got a great home, pretty big home. Everything's going fine. And then your life begins to change. Slowly it begins. But some strange things started happening. Can you tell us about how all this started?
You basically summed it up correctly. When I moved to Bothell, which is located 20-30 minutes northeast of Seattle. Me and my girlfriend, Tina, at the time, had been together already for 2 years. She lived not too far from me, and I lived not too far from her. So we had our own places. And it just felt right to move under one roof. We're spending a lot of time together. I had just taken on an awesome job promotion, received an awesome job promotion. So it just felt like the timing was right. May 1st, 2012, we moved in to this house in Bothell. And it's unbelievable. What I know now about poltergeists, because I knew nothing then, but what I know now is what happened to us on day one is very rare. When we got the keys to the house, signed the deeds, the lease, shook the homeowner's hands, he walked out. Within a very few minutes time frame, me and Tina are sitting in the living room. House is empty, it's not lived in. Hasn't been lived in, I believe, for at least 4 to 6 weeks. And out of the blue, in the middle of our conversation, we heard a kid cough. And I tell everybody this kid cough was clear, it was concise. It's like I'm talking to you now. And what makes it unbelievable is we both heard it. It paused Tina from talking to me, and it paused me from talking to her because we have no kids. The house has been empty, and it came from one of the rooms upstairs. And Tina looked at me, and I looked at her, and we both said or asked the same question. Was that a kid cough?
Mm.
And I didn't know then what I know now in regards to those are maybe precursors of a presence and something's trying to get your attention. It definitely was a kid cough. But we brushed it off. We said that had to have come from outside, even though we had no evidence to confirm that. But what else can it be, right? I mean, we're here by ourselves. And we totally forgot about it. Start moving in 2 weeks later, slowly but surely. She's bringing her stuff over, I'm bringing my stuff over, and we're filling the house up. And finally, we're getting settled in the home. And the first thing I noticed missing that belonged to me were my extra set of car keys. And by car keys, I mean your little car fob button device. And it was missing. I had never used it. I kept it in the glove box, in a box, in my safe. And I only noticed it was gone when I went to retrieve another item. But I thought it was weird because I'd never used this car key. It's a spare. And now it's gone. And when I moved it over here, I walked it over me and I hand delivered it myself. I didn't give this to the movers. But I thought, okay, maybe it got lost in the process, got shuffled around. It's eventually going to reappear where I left it in the glove box. At the same time, Tina's coming to me, asking me, have I seen her jewelry? You know, bracelet, earring, watch, things like that. And both our answers are always no. Then we both start asking each other about our silverware that we both noticed was depleting. We find ourselves searching for fork, knives, spoons. And that went on for the first 6, maybe 2 months of living in the home. But it's really nothing you can hang your hat on because, hey, it's a new house. We're just moving. Okay, whatever. Really love this house. Really love this new experience. We love being under one roof. It's kind of weird, but it's not weird. Finally, the day of what I call the moment of truth, the moment where you can no longer deny what your eyes are showing you, was the day we were sitting on the couch watching a Netflix movie, me and Tina. And Tina has this 4-foot tall plant by the entertainment center sitting next to the TV. You can't miss it. And I kid you not, it darts up in the middle of the air rather quickly, does a 360-degree spin, and falls toward the ground towards us.
Wow.
And we both saw it together. I'm glad we saw it together. We looked at each other first, and then we hurried toward the plant because we thought we were being pranked or punked or, okay, we got a house that obviously some part of some reality TV show, and they've been spoofing us. So now they're going to start coming out of the closet and the doors and say, ha, we've been watching you guys for, and as being good sports, we're going to send you on a faraway place and, thanks for being a good sport about it. And your house will be here when you get back. We thought that was going to come. We really did. And
all right, where's the cameras at? Where's the cameras?
Yeah, where's the cameras? Where's the microphone? Where's, and wow. But it didn't come. And then I looked at Tina and I was like, you know what? After we went upstairs online to search for how can you tell your house is haunted, and a lot of the websites said what we had already experienced: missing objects, phantom footsteps. One website even said a kid cough. Another website said, coming downstairs or a depletion of jewelry, household silverware. And that sort of made sense. And then when we saw the kid cough, we were like, oh, we have a kid ghost. We weren't thinking malevolent because up to now, nothing really malevolent has happened. So we thought, okay, all right, it'd be kind of cool. All right, got a little Johnny running around here. Okay, whatever. And then the advice given by the websites was, you want to take on a parental role. You want to be nice. You want to be instructive. Don't yell at it. It's probably or obviously lost or confused. And this is a relatively new house. This is not an ancient house. This house was built in 2005. It's a very almost brand new home. So it was kind of weird that we thought, well, did somebody die in the home? That's kind of weird. But so, yeah, we would talk and say, hey, go to the light. Can we help you? And the response we got was always violent, meaning a loud bang or an object got thrown in our vicinity.
Right.
So when you realized that this was not a prank, there was no cameras, like when that point hit you, what was your first response to this activity happening in those very early days?
The early days, it was my first response was if the internet is saying it's correct, it's a kid ghost, and this is as far as it goes. Hey, it's kind of cool.
Right.
It's kind of cool. We got a little Casper running around, or if that's as far as it goes. And the internet was very 50-50. We didn't get to the other site that says, run for your lives, but it just says, yeah, these things typically will fade out over time. Here's what you do. They get bored and they leave or they disappear. And I was like, okay, because up to now, only thing that's really missing is not really of consequence to me or Tina. Yeah, we're searching for silverware, and that's kind of inconvenient when you need a fork when you want one. But if that is bad as it gets, then we're okay. We can buy new forks. But very quickly, I would add, it started getting bad. Then I started looking more. I was like, okay, I need to leave the kid theory alone. This might not be a kid.
Right.
We'll be right back.
This is Katrina Weidman of Destination America's Paranormal Lockdown, and you're listening to What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show.
Mercy, a new horror medical thriller from author T. Fox Dunham, published by Bloodbound Books. Based on the author's horrific battle with a rare form of lymphoma that involved intense chemotherapy and radiation, Fox turns the horror of his experience into terror on the page.
William Saint is dying of cancer. On most days, death seems like a humane alternative to the treatment. Stricken with fever, William is rushed to Mercy, notorious as a place to send the sickest of the poor and uninsured to be forgotten, and finds the hospital in even worse condition than his previous visit.
Willie's memories faded. He grabbed his sack head, the sack head of the scarecrow, picking at the exposed chicken wire to hold them in. However, the memories fell out of the holes in his face. They wormed and crawled from the leather flesh and the old clothing of the scarecrow, then squirmed and wiggled down his body.
The grounds are unkempt, the foundation is cracking, and like the wild mushrooms sprouting from the fissures of decay around it, something is growing inside the hospital. Something dark.
Fangoria gives Mercy 3.5 out of 4 skulls. Dunham has channeled his many brushes with the other side into the exquisitely rendered, lyrical, supernatural hospital thriller Mercy.
It's feeding on the sickness and sustaining itself on the staff, changing them, and now it wants Willie.
Come now, Mr. Saint. Just a little more of that sweet milk. So salty and so good. You won't miss it. And we ever do so like our delicacies here at Mercy Hospital.
Part medical horror, part supernatural suspense, Mercy is a hard-hitting fever dream of a novel. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Tim Wagner, author of The Way of All Flesh and Eat the Night. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and bookstores everywhere in both print and digital versions.
Life is an addiction.
Let go. Let it all burn.
We're back. Most of the time when someone encounters a haunting in their home, they've had no experience. They've seen movies, they've heard stories, but they sort of blew them off. But there's nothing that prepares you for this. And then you begin experiencing strange phenomena. At first you ignore it, or you're kind of intrigued. If you even feel a little special that it's happening to you. And then as it gets worse, you reach out looking for some sort of information or way to understand or relate this. You hit the internet, you find several websites, and here's the problem: is that there is no guidebook. There are no college programs. There are no degrees in parapsychology or paranormal relationships. Everything you find on the internet is based on someone's opinion, and there's so much.
So much.
So many interpretations of what's happening, and everybody has a motive. Everybody has a perspective. And as I was reading about your story, you ran into trouble because some of the paranormal investigators said, oh, well, your house isn't old enough to be haunted.
Yeah.
And it just goes back to the fact that these various groups, there isn't a college, there isn't a policing force that monitors it, there's not an organization that sets the standards. It's all based on their personal mythology. Some people look at it from a religious point of view, some people look at it from a scientific point of view, some people just collect data and sort of define it. But you're finding all these different theories on what to do and how to interact with it and how to make it better. And the fact is, you could actually be making it worse or not doing anything at all.
And I think it's interesting what you said, Fox, too, about people online talking about, it's not old enough. And like he said, it's 2005. So, but like if something could have happened, I don't think how old is your complex? It's not like, the actual building, it's built over a burial ground. If someone dies in a place that's built in 2001 or 5 or 8, and it was a pretty tragic experience, there could be something there, even though it's not old. But I understand the whole ancient housing aspect, because it's simple. The longer something's around, the more time it has to have something happen.
Well, my place, my apartment, I'd say it's about 700 years old.
Okay, so your apartment is okay. Well,
yeah, I would say it's considering the plumbing and the hot water, it's about 700 years old.
Yeah,
but
so it's a castle.
It's a warning to a lot of our listeners, especially if you're having a problem. It's that you sort of have to develop your own observation. Take what other websites say with a sort of grain of salt. Read the calmer ones. I find that the groups that seem to know more and more, there's a lot of it that's just opinion or mythology. It's based on their own religion. I've run into this with a lot of trouble. It's like, oh, it's a demon. Oh, it's a ghost. Oh, it's an energy form. And honestly, they really have really no idea what's happening. But gentlemen, we're going to pause there so that I can play something that came from Keith. This is an article that came up that our wonderful friend David Walton, our English folk singer, recorded for us. We always pause to play narrated folk stories and ghost stories and fiction on the show. But this came from Keith. This is one of the experiences he had, called The Poster Fire, read by David Walton. And this is What Are You Afraid of? Horror and Paranormal Show on ParaX Radio on Friday nights at 9 p.m. And check out our website at www.whatareyoufraidofpodcast.com for more information about Keith, links to his books, links to his website, and the videos that he's done, plus all 135 episodes that we've done, our body of ghost stories, and links to our interviews with our Crash Code authors, a wonderful book out from Bloodbound Books about the dark future that we're all facing. So this is The Poster Fire, read by David Walton on What Are You Afraid Of? And we'll be right back.
Poster Fire, from the Bothell Hell House, poltergeist of Washington State. Experienced and written by Keith Linder and read by David Walton. Spring 2014. One of the most horrifying events my girlfriend and I faced while living in the Bothell home was the day the poster caught fire in my office. Tina and I had been witness to a lot of activity the weeks leading up to the poster catching fire. I'm talking about bar stools being thrown. Our bedroom light was going off and on in the middle of us sleeping. Loud bangs, loud footsteps, door slams, and yes, one Bible catching fire. All of that happened within a week of the story I'm about to tell. The advice that was given to us by friends and family was to smudge the house. The internet said the same thing. Smudging lessens the activity. Let me tell you, smudging never lessened the activity. It made it worse. This story is proof of that. The night before the poster caught fire, I walked up to Tina and asked her if she'd feel comfortable smudging the house. Tina is an excellent smudge person. She's very thorough. The next day, we woke and got ourselves ready for work. Nothing unusual about that morning, except the house was smelling like sage. That's normal. Your house should smell like sage if you smudged the night before. I later found out that smudging before going to bed is dangerous. Very dangerous. Tina and I got up that morning and did pretty much what we always do. We got ready for work. The feeling of being watched had lessened. Could the smudging have helped? Hell no. 30-odd minutes later, Tina walks up to me and kisses me goodbye. Now it's just me in the house. The only thing on my mind right now is beating Seattle traffic. A few minutes after I stepped into the shower, it happens. Hell happens. Every fire alarm in the house starts going off. I'm standing in the doorway of my bathroom half dried thinking, oh shit, it's happening. I knew right then and there something was up. I didn't know specifically, not yet anyway. Something's up though, and it's not good. I remember running through the bedroom and suddenly reaching our bedroom doorway, and that's when it happened. All of a sudden, I feel a large mass run right by me. I can't see what ran past me. I can only feel it. It was huge. All I could hear, in addition to the fire alarms going off, was this mass stomping. My eyes and ears turned towards the direction of the stomping noise, when all of a sudden the front door of the house opens wide and slams shut. That's it. The door just opens wide on its own and slams shut. That's when my brain says, "Give chase, Keith, give chase." But my common sense gene says, "Give chase to what? We still haven't determined if someone was in the house. We haven't seen anything. The door just opened and closed on its own." So I do what my brain says. I run down the stairs and reach the front door. I should be able to get a good glimpse of the intruder as he's leaving the house. I throw my hand on the front door knob and nothing happens. The front door doesn't open. Correction. The front door doesn't budge, not even a centimetre. I must have fought with the doorknob for about 2 seconds before realising that I had a fire somewhere. Smoke is billowing from the upstairs, from my office. I run to my office, and there it is, ladies and gentlemen. There's the fire. The wall behind my computer desk is on fire. The poster specifically. How many seconds have transpired between the fire alarm going off and where I'm standing now? 30 seconds maybe? The first thing I do to kill the fire is toss my damp towel over it. The fire didn't put up a fight. It was gone. I turn and run downstairs again. The house is filled with smoke. I get to the front door and try to open the front door again. Nothing? The door won't budge. This is the same door I saw open less than a minute ago. It feels like it's been welded shut. The fire alarms are still wailing in the background. I can taste the chemicals from my burnt poster in my mouth and nostrils. And that's when it dawned on me. The house is not the one under attack. I am. Think carefully about Keith. The next few decisions could be your last. What are you going to do? I'm probably in shock at this stage, because I remember the events vaguely at this point. All of a sudden, I'm on the phone with the 911 operator. I'm screaming to her that my house is on fire. She's maintaining her level of professionalism by asking me in a calm, "What's my address?" Every time I utter my address through the phone, large amounts of static break out. I'm talking about serious electrical interference. We go through this "I can't hear you, can you repeat your address?" dance for about 30 seconds. Finally, she gets my address, and in doing so lets me know that the fire department is on the way. I hang up and call Tina. Thank God she answers. Tina can hear the fire alarm screaming through the phone. I blurt out to her to come back home. Come back home, the house is under attack. I hang up. The front door, for reasons I can't explain, finally opened. It opened within seconds of the fire department arriving. How ironic. The firemen dart in and at my urging proceed up towards the office. They said I did a good job putting the poster fire out. Tina runs into the house a minute after they arrive and grabs me. I must have been half naked and shaking like a leaf because all I could remember was Tina throwing blankets over me. I was shivering and shaking like a wet puppy. I'm not afraid to admit that I was crying and quivering like a baby. You would have thought somebody had doused me in a tub of ice water, cubes and all. That's how shaken up I was. The fire department never could determine what caused the fire. Tina and I knew. This is the second fire incident we'd experienced. There will be 2 more fire incidents in that house in the coming weeks. When the fire department left, all Tina and I had now was each other. The demons who did this are still there. They're snickering at us right now. Whatever ran past me in the upstairs hallway had to have been the ringleader. Neither one of us could think of a solution to our problem. The only thing left to do now is to contact the Catholic Church. That's the only logical thing to do now, right? Tina and I looked at each other and pretty much had reached the same conclusion. We're marching down to the local parish office. We're not leaving till someone sees us.
What happens to a ghost when their home is torn down? No one thinks of the disembodied when they rip down old buildings, dig up cemeteries, and build clean, unhauntable condos. Every year, hundreds of spirits are driven out of their own haunts by the careless living to exist alone with no one to scare. At Para X Radio, our hosts feel the plight of these evicted disembodied, and we're reaching out to you to please open your heart to one of these lost souls, such as the ghost soldier of the General Wayne Inn or the abandoned spirit cat of Benjamin Rush. So please, please, let a little spooky into your life. Won't you open your house to a ghost without a home?
Para X.
Hi, I'm David Walton, and I drop whatever I'm doing to read whatever Fox and Phil demand of me. My digital, as opposed to ectoplasmic alter ego, is called Brendan Shawland, who regularly plays guitar and sings in a virtual world. Brendan has a website, David doesn't. Bandcamp sales figures would suggest that Brendan's music is decidedly niche. If you want to be in the vanguard of support as Brendan heads towards global domination, just put Brendan Shawland in your favourite search engine, and you'll find his website very close to the top. You'll see what the human looks like, and you can check out the Listen to a Song page to access Brendan's unwillingly private world of creative output.
We're back. What do you rate of Horror and Paranormal Show? David Walton just want to. David,
yeah. He always reads so well. Yeah,
he does. We love him, and I'm so glad he's a part of the show. And we've got some wonderful things planned with David in the future. Oh, and to let our fans know, we are going to be at Paranormal in March
here around 2020. That's right.
Yes, indeed.
We'll right in Lancaster. Right in Lancaster.
Yeah, 3 minutes away from me.
Yeah, I mean, how ironic is that? You couldn't have planned that any better. I mean, that's perfect.
I had no idea it was happening.
You didn't. I must say, you didn't plan it. It just kind of happened.
Yeah. Rebecca Brumble over at Para X asked us to come up. There's a bunch of Para X tables going to be there, and it's going to be a blast. I'm going to be making scones.
I can't wait. That's going to be great. I can't wait to sit there and eat some scones while we're hanging out. That's going to be fun.
Oh, I'm going to give them out.
Okay, cool.
All the guests there. No, we'll be eating them, and I'll be giving them out.
Well, you better make a lot then.
I plan to. I'll be doing my mini scones. I'll be folding in the butter in a food processor. It's going to be a scone factory around here for a few days.
Nice. That's going to be like a 3-day endeavor.
It will be. We are back on episode 136, Hell House of Washington State. We are talking to Keith Linder. He's very kind to take some time and tell us about his experiences with the poltergeists in his home. So, Keith, going into specifics, you were talking about, that's what got me. You said a potted plant just lifted up and crashed.
Right.
And broke, yeah. And that sort of hit me where I live because I'm a herbalist and I'm a gardener, and I would be very upset if a plants were coming, or if a ghost was coming around and messing with my horticulture. And then you were hearing noises, hearing bangs, weird phenomenon was happening. And I know that your cabinet started opening, light fixtures began exploding, and then you began to see what you called the Gray Lady. Could you tell us a bit about her?
Yeah, the Gray Lady is mentioned throughout both books, and there's a reason why I call her the Gray Lady. Number one, she's 100% gray. There was nothing ever translucent, transparent, or invisible about her. The first time I saw her, this is, once again, we're going back to early summer, June or July of 2012, of me in my office, just typing away at the keyboard. In the middle of that, all of a sudden, the lights in my room go off, and I hear the clicking sound of the light switch, meaning click and the lights are off, and I'm sitting in total blackness. The only light that's coming is coming from the hallway. And I do what anybody else would do when you hear a clicking sound and the lights go off. You instinctively turn toward the direction of the light switch. And I did, and there's a woman standing there. And I kid you not, she's standing there full-bodied. And I always tell people she had two expressions on her face at the same time. One was mischievousness, being sort of conniving, sneakiness, and the other one being confused or worn out. She looked lost. And when I saw her, she was trying to dematerialize through the room next to my office, which is the washroom. And I noticed, and this has happened all within less than a second or two, she could not demanifest through the door. She was trying to, it was like she was fading in and out, but she could not get through the door completely, till finally she just gave up and turned tail and sped off down the hallway. I still don't know what I'm looking at. I'm thinking, haha, that's Tina playing a joke on me. But me and Tina already made an agreement. We don't play ghost jokes. And it was just weird. So I'm more than instinct than logic, dart after what I'm seeing. And of course, when I turn the corner, what I saw is gone. And when I go into the bedroom, or master bedroom, to tell Tina, Tina's shoulder deep, chin deep in bubble bath, and she looks at my face, Tina does, and my expression says it all. I mean, it's very cliche when I say this, but it's true. I just seen a ghost. I saw it. We've had activity going on 3 months now, and I told Tina that night, I finally have a face to it. And it was the weirdest thing. Very petite, maybe 119 odd pounds, maybe 5'6" in height, shoulder length hair, thin hair, spaghetti thin hair, but all gray, all matte colored gray. And
do you remember what she was? Do you remember what she was wearing? Like any kind of clothing? What kind of clothing she was wearing?
I want to say between a blouse and a dress she had on.
Okay.
it wasn't like a dress out of, ancient times or mid 1800s, but it could pass for today. If I saw her walking, it could pass for today what she was wearing.
Interesting.
When I first read that, do you know what I thought of when I heard about the Gray Lady standing there?
You thought about Lights Out, right?
I thought about
No?
the scene from Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay.
With the librarian.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that because when he was explaining this with the light switch, I was thinking of that movie Lights Out, where the light goes out and then you can see the outline of a figure, and then when the lights go on, they disappear.
Right.
It kind of reminded me of that. I know that didn't exactly happen like that for him, but that's what came to mind when he was explaining it.
But I was thinking of the scene with the librarian at the beginning of Ghostbusters, and I even said out loud as I was reading the book, "Get her." That was
nice.
That was the whole plan. Get her. So that's very spooky seeing the Gray Lady. What's interesting is that these phenomena that were happening were mostly kinetic. They were physical phenomena, noises, pots being thrown, cabinets being opened, silverware going missing. But then all of a sudden you get a face to the phenomenon. You see the Gray Lady. And again, I caution over adding too much mythology to these things. It's when we start explaining them too much and giving them a story and beginning to interpret them that I think we start losing track of the relevance and the sincerity of the events. So you saw this Gray Lady, and then over the next few months, things really started gearing up for you. Could you tell us about the things that really started happening then?
Yeah, it would seem like every phenomenon we've talked about already, I refer to as campaigns, meaning they would happen more than once, usually throughout the week. And then a new campaign, meaning a new activity, would be introduced. In addition to what's already happening, example would be the loud bangings came first. Then after that, the loud bangings came. Then you had a campaign of coming downstairs and seeing all your kitchen cabinet doors open. And that would happen a lot moving forward. Then after that came other pots and plants being thrown. Tina had about 5 to 7 plants, real plants that sat in dirt and whatnot, stationed throughout the house. And they would just became projectiles. And you would hear a loud bang and go respond to the bang, and then you see a plant knocked over. It's on the other side of the room. We bring the broom and dustpan and clean up the mess, the vacuum cleaner, put the plant back where it was originally. And I kid you not, sometimes that same night or the next night, that same plant got thrown again. This happened multiple times throughout summer of 2012 to where Tina, unfortunately, all her plants eventually died because they just couldn't keep repotting them, the soil and whatnot. But then nowhere are they stopping the other things. They're not pausing on the loud bangs. They're not pausing on the missing items. The flip side of the missing items that you guys might appreciate is items are also appearing that neither one of us own. Primarily kid toys, which is, once again, kind of weird. What's even weirder about these kid toys is they're not present-day kid toys. I would say majority of the kid toys that we found them on staircase, kitchen table, kitchen counter, hallway. They're always in your direct path or direct vicinity, like they want you to see them. These are little trinket toys, but they seem to be 10 years old. They seem to be something that a kid had in the early 90s or mid 90s. Some even go as far back as the 70s. I'm talking about the toys.
Yeah.
And so that was weird, in addition to the stuff that we have that are now missing, our possessions. And 90% of our possessions, me and Tina never got back. We never got back.
Wow, they just disappeared. They never found them.
Never found them again. Never relocated to other parts of the house. A few did, but majority didn't. Wow. And I know in some of the phenomena books and lore, the jury is 50-50 of items returning or whatever. And there's a theory even, are these items appearing in other people's homes, like the kid toys? We all know they have to come from somewhere. But then toward the end of 2012, the activity does taper off. There is a sense, okay, it's running its course. It took 8 months or 9 months to do that. Up until now, the most horrific thing for us to experience are the large objects being thrown.
Mhm.
And that's tapering down. And then for 2013, we had no activity. Zero.
Wow.
Zilch.
For a whole year?
For a whole year. Actually, a year and 2 months, I believe.
Wow.
We had no activity. And we thought, okay, they do leave. They do get bored. I even said a few times, jokingly, looking up at the air or at the ceiling, can you bring some of our stuff back as a parting gift? Or,
Yeah.
I would like my keep fob back. I had to say, don't have to do it now. Just put it on the coffee table while I go to bed or something. Of course, that never happened. But I'm going back to the websites, and the websites were right in this regard. They said most of these things go away. You never have any problems whatsoever, ever. However, they said if they do come back, they generally are worse than before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an understatement in our experience, because let me tell you, when they come back, they pick up where they left off. There's no slow burn. There's no getting reacclimated. Everybody's already know each other. We know you, Keith, as we're back. What do we leave off at? Throwing plants at you? Okay, we're going to start throwing more stuff at you. And it's just out the blue. This is no, hey, Tina, I feel weird. The house feels weird and something happened. No, the first time we knew the activity was back in 2014 was we were asleep and we heard a loud crash in our hallway. And it was a giant armoire, this heavy armoire. It took 3 men, myself included, to carry it upstairs. And it was resting on the opposite side of the hallway, and we had a new gash hole in the wall, and that armoire was thrown 3 times in the hallway till we finally had to move it to one of the guest bedrooms, which still was thrown. But that woke us up, and that night on, and what the things this case is known for, the burning Bibles, the wall writings, and whatnot, all that is what 2014 is, and that came soon after the armoire got thrown.
Wow, that is insane. That is, wow.
Yeah, it's right.
I'm actually like, my mind's like blown right now, like, hearing all this, because wow. I mean, like you were saying, it took 3 men to move that, and whatever this thing was, it just tossed it like a rag doll. Did you feel like you were being targeted at that point, like that this energy was seeking you out to either communicate with you or hurt you to a certain aspect?
Not yet. There's going to be a time where they're going to be doing some extreme targeting. By that, I mean individual. Right now, they seem to be more concentrating on, we're just going to haunt the house and watch you guys respond to what we do. I mean, we're going to throw objects in rooms that you're not in. And by that, I mean, you're in the living room, the den is over there, or you're in the living room, the kitchen's over there. We want you to hear the stuff being thrown. Occasionally, we'll zip something by you. But we want you to see you respond, go dashing to where you hear the noise. And we might have breaking objects waiting for you when you get there, and we might not. That's one of the weirdest things I could not understand is you hear a loud crash. We all know how our piano sounds when they crash, say 50 stories. It makes a lot of noise. It's like the end of the world. However, you respond, and there's nothing there waiting for you until 30 minutes later after you've left that original spot. It's like different time lanes of you and them and they can do the noise, and you heard a plant crash, but the plant's fine. You can see it, it's fine. But you come back 30 minutes later, no new noise, the plant's obliterated on the floor now. It's just one of the weirdest observations, going back to the laws of physics that I was really trying to find answers to. But the targeting, as far as they're going to narrow their scope to Tina, sometimes there was a campaign of Tina only, like scratches she received, like the slamming of the bathroom door when she's taking a shower or bath, or while she's watching TV. The light fixtures, I think you saw it read in the book, where the light fixtures blew up in her face when she was home by herself. Then there's a campaign of targeting Keith. The poster fire is a perfect example of that. The other phenomena of the wall writings, most or some in my name, the die KL, with my first and last name, written inside the house, written outside the lawn, on the lawn, and written inside my car. So yeah, they were bouncing around, and then toward the end, they narrowed their focus on me.
And we'll be right back.
Explore the darkness.
Find out what goes bump in the night. Did you hear that?
Did you see that? What's that bright light in the sky? Oh, we so need to investigate.
Calling all witches and sensitives.
Explore the paranormal.
With host
Shauna
and Vicky.
From Geeks Paranormal.
Wednesdays
at 9 Eastern.
8 Central.
Let's explore. On paraxradio.com.
In the future, roving bands of comic book podcasts will savage the wasteland, once known as the Internet. One podcast, the Grolix Podcast, may not be the biggest, may not be the funniest, may not be the most well-spoken. Wait, what was my point again? Oh yes, the Grolix Podcast. Listen to it at grolixpodcast.com. That's GRAWLIX podcast.com.
We're back. One of the other things that scared me as I was reading the book, and I like I said, I read these things at Halloween. I read enough that I get some great guests for the next year of What Are You Afraid Of? Were the incidents with the Bibles. Do you want to tell us about those?
Yeah, because the Bibles is one of the things, I'm glad you asked that, because the Bibles are one of the things that sort of made this case, I guess, controversial in the sense, and this is from the paranormal teams, going back to some of the teams that we were working with, in their eyes, it just seemed to be too good to be true that you would have this much activity in not only one Bible you said caught fire, you're saying 3. Mm-hmm. Now, one misconceptions I tried to break up in the book was, me and Tina, we're not overly religious. We're not churchgoers. We don't attend services. I identify myself more as maybe spiritual than religious. The Bibles that I owned, but I had them in my closet in my library. These are just Bibles I had as references. And when we start talking to churches and paranormal teams, they said one of the ways you can do to quell the activity is display your religious paraphernalia. Put it out, put your cross out, put your Bible out, open to Psalms and Proverbs. And we did. And then that itself, when you do that, when you introduce an object, and in the poltergeist eyes, it's just an object, in my opinion, they will take that object because they're thinking, you think this is going to get rid of me. Well, let me show you the best way possible that it's not. And they set it on fire. And then you're like, whoa, that's, Bible's on fire. And our mental side, meaning me, because I grew up in the church, even though I go to church now, you think, oh my God, that's the end of the world. That's Satan. Who would dare burn a Bible? That's like Lucifer in here. Right. And you're like, okay. And I take that news back to the paranormal teams, and they're like, oh, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. All right, you got to do it again. You got to be steadfast. You got to put another Bible out there. Hey, they're stubborn. We're stubborn. And the churches are definitely telling you, if you got another Bible, you got to put it out there because Satan's trying. So I put another Bible out, and they just burned Bible number 2 and Bible number 3. Wow. And I can tell you, it's a wonder to see because the manner in which these Bibles catch fire, I used the example of the third Bible that caught fire or was burned. The immediate area of where the Bible is sitting, there's no smoke residue. There's no even hint of smoke or fire. You would not know the fire had occurred unless you looked at the condition of the Bible. The wood bookshelf underneath that's holding up the Bible, there's no burnt pattern. There's no trace mark. Everything is localized. It looked like it was a controlled burn, a controlled fire. And that's written in a lot of other poltergeist cases that involve fire. Of the fire behaves weirdly, just like the objects that float in the air or fly through the air behave weirdly. And these Bibles, they would catch fire. You can see them. There's pictures of them in my book. There's pictures of them on my YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. And how the pages incinerated. When Steve Mayer and Don Phillips, the guys from the UK, came, they tested a few books by trying to light them on fire to see if they could duplicate that look. They wanted to duplicate that look with matches, with accelerants, and they couldn't. They didn't come close. But these Bibles, I can tell you, going back to Bible number 2, which was sitting on the upstairs bookshelf. That Sunday morning, I got up to go downstairs. My Bible was fine. I saw it. It was sitting in the hallway bookshelf, fine, in perfect condition, the way I left it, open. And then I went downstairs to make a pot of coffee. Mm-hmm. And that takes maybe 3 minutes. So I put some ground and water in my coffee machine. And 4 minutes later, I'm coming back upstairs. The Bible's gone.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
The Bible's gone. Huh. I tell Tina, hey, the Bible's missing. This is Bible number 2 to go missing. We don't even look anymore because we know they took it. The Bible's just don't up and walk off on bookshelves. So we're not even going to waste our time and give them the satisfaction of looking for this thing. If they want to give it to us, fine. Now, we had no idea how they were going to give it to us 5 minutes later, because now I'm totally forget about the Bible missing. I'm going to retrieve me a cup of coffee. I go downstairs 5 minutes later, and we have a little kitchen island in the middle of the kitchen, and there dead center is that Bible, and on top of it is a heap of ash. Mm-hmm. A heap of ash. It's maybe 1.5 feet from my coffee maker.
Man.
You know, in a relatively 5-minute time. No sprinklers. It's not even hot to the touch. You put your nose up to it. It doesn't smell like it was recently burnt, but it had to have been recently burnt because only 5 minutes have passed.
Yeah.
And now it's on the kitchen island, and nothing is hot to the touch. There's no simmering. We have very sensitive smoke detectors in our home. You know, you burn toast, they just pop off, you know. But nothing whatsoever.
So it's just cold ash, just kind of
cold ash. It looked like it had been sitting there for a day, except the fact that it wasn't.
Wow.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to even comprehend that. How is that explained?
Well, it's direct pyrokinetic agitation of molecules, that kind of thing, where the molecules themselves are focused. Of course, where fire itself is a chemical reaction.
Right.
The molecules, the atoms themselves, can be agitated quite specifically on that page without generating much heat, but it takes a lot of energy and will to do that. And it sounds like Keith's poltergeists, like classic poltergeists, it's mostly kinetic stuff. It's energy stuff. It's motion. It's throwing. It does sound like there is some communication here, but it's all physically active. Well, this is an incredible story, Mr. Linder, and we have to pause our episode now. This was episode 136, Hell House of Washington State, and we'll be bringing you back on episode 137 to tell your terrifying story. Isn't it terrifying, Phil?
Yes, it really is. And it's very interesting. Like, I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, you know? It's I've read the stories, and then listening to them again, I'm just enjoying it. I'm kind of cuddled up with a cup of coffee on the couch, listening and just enjoying my Saturday afternoon of ghost stories with Keith Linder. So it's just been a great episode so far. We're going to be back with Keith on episode 137. This is What Are You Afraid of? Horror and Paranormal Show. We're on Parax Radio, Friday nights at 9 p.m. Check out our website at www.whatayouafraidofpodcast.com for expanded information on this episode. We will have links up to Keith's websites, his books, videos where you can find him, and the photographs, the information about what he's talking about. Plus, all of our previous episodes are up there, all of our ghost stories, and send us your ghost stories. We'll have our voice actors turn it into some remarkable narrative fiction. But we will be back on episode 137. This is T. Fox Dunham.
And I'm Phil Thomas.
My apartment, I'd say it's about 700 years old. Considering the plumbing and the hot water, it's about T. Fox Dunham lives in Philadelphia with his wife, Allison. He's a lymphoma survivor, cancer patient, modern bard and historian. His first book, The Street Martyr, was published by Gutter Books. A television series based on the book is being produced by Throughline Films. Destroying the Tangible Illusion of Reality or Searching for Andy Kaufman, a book about what it's like to be dying of cancer, was released from Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing, and Fox has a story in the Stargate anthology Points of Origin from MGM and Fandemonium Books. Fox is an active member of the Horror Writers Association, and he's had published hundreds of short stories and articles. His motto is Wrecking Civilization, one story at a time. Find out more information at www.tfoxdunham.com.
Phil Thomas is an author and screenwriter from the suburbs of Philadelphia. His screenplays have been produced into 2 feature films, False Face and Always from Darkness, and are available in major retailers such as Best Buy and Target, as well as availability on Netflix and Amazon Prime on demand. His screenplay, 3 Tunnels, was a semi-finalist at the LA Screenplay Competition. He is a member of the International Association of Professional Writers and Editors, and he currently writes for Cultured Vultures, Game Skinny, and BloodyDisgusting.com. He formerly held the position of Senior Marketing Manager at Eternal Press, and was a journalist for Patch, where he wrote a daily tech column covering the latest electronics and gadgets. He lives in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and is currently working on his second novel, Worst Afterlife Ever.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.